welcome. My name's Caitlin, and I'll be guiding you through your Yin practice today. Before we get started, it might be nice to have some blankets, pillows, layers, or other preferred props nearby. Let's find a comfortable seat. Rooting the sit bones down into the mat or prop. Crown is lifting towards the sky. Whatever feels comfortable to you. I invite you to close your eyes. Begin to observe the sensations of your breath as it moves in and out of the body. Taking time to ground. I invite you to arrive just as you are here today, in this moment. Bringing your awareness back to the breath. Let the waves of each inhale and exhale wash over you. Connect with your breath here as you inhale, fuller and deeper and slower. Exhaling, long and slow. Sometimes it's nice to put a hand on the heart and the belly to direct your breath into a deeper place, and also just to give yourself a little love. Coming into the body. This is your practice here today. Honor your body. Whatever you feel like you need in the moment, please do that. Today we're practicing Yin. It's a quieter, slower, cooler, more passive practice. We hold poses for a little longer. And it's a nice balance to the Yang style of practice where our muscles are warm and fired up. We'll keep the breath long and slow and move with intention and awareness. If your eyes are closed, you might start to flutter them open. Maybe give yourself a few shoulder rolls here. We're going to start in a pose called butterfly. We'll come to seated with the soles of our feet together, making a bit of a diamond shape from our pelvis to our heels. You can choose the distance from your pelvis, whatever distance feels good to you. Some bodies like the ankles and feet closer. Some like it further away. Use your props wherever you feel like you need a bit of support and able to fully release into the pose. Pillows can be nice to rest the chest upon. You can also stack your fists for the forehead if the dangling of the neck and head is uncomfortable. Taking a moment or two to find a place where you can come into stillness. In Yin, we're really trying to find a release. So if you're holding on to tension anywhere in the body, try to find a way to add softness. sitting up on a support to fold forward can help release into that forward fold. Coming into your breath here. So in Yin, we stay in our poses for different lengths of time. And we're looking for a depth that allows us to have some sensation, but nothing at all painful. We stay there for a length of time in stillness so that we can activate our connective tissues like our joints, ligaments, tendons, our fascia, without those bigger muscles taking over. Breathing into your sensation here. Opening up the hamstrings, the adductors, the lower back. And breathe. Bringing your awareness back to your breath if it has wandered away. We'll start to gently press into the mat to lift the upper body, coming out nice and slow. And feel free to keep your eyes closed during this practice and just listen to my voice. Closing your knees together with your hands like you're closing a book. Maybe finding a release by shifting the knees from side to side. Your body might be craving a certain counter pose after this. Next, we're moving into toe stretch or toe squat. Coming onto all fours. And we'll tuck the toes under, making sure to spread the toes. You may need to reach down and find that baby toe so it makes contact with the mat. Knees are together here. This pose has a lot of sensation in the feet. Just know at any time you can fold forward and place your hands on the mat to relieve some of the pressure on the feet. We're opening up the ankles, the muscles around the toes and the tops and bottoms of the feet, giving yourself a break when you need to, and knowing that in Yin, while we are trying to find stillness, please feel free to release out of the pose when you need to. Or if your body is being called to find a deeper sensation, you can move there as well. As our shoulders are stacked over our hips and over our ankles and toes here, there's a lot of sensation going on. I like to take my hand to my heart and my abdomen to really connect with my body and my breath when the mind begins to chatter. In any pose when we're on the knees, you're welcome to pad underneath with a blanket. Could even find a block or sit on something if the sensation on the toes was a bit too much, but could get there about halfway. Breathing here. Slowly moving our hands forward, coming onto all fours, releasing the tops of the feet to the mat and maybe finding a bit of a pitter-patter. Maybe your torso is looking for a bit of a stretch after being in a pose for a few minutes. Moving nice and slow and with your breath. Come into a bit of a counter pose here, hero's pose, where we sit our hips back onto the heels. We won't be here very long, but if you'd like to find a bit more of a release for the ankles or stretch for the top of the ankles, you can lean back and lift the knees for a few breaths. Then be making our way into child's pose, so you can make your way there if this is not serving your body at this time. Taking the knees apart, feeling free to pad underneath the knees or sit on something if that helps relieve pressure on the ankles or feet. You could stack your fists underneath your forehead. Could widen the arms or send them long. If you find that your head is dangling, find a support. So if it's not your hands, maybe a blanket or a block. Breathe here. Let the belly be nice and soft between the knees. Feeling the hips sink back to the heels. See if you can release any tension in your face. Child's pose is a very calming, grounding position for our body. We're opening up the hips, the shoulders, the ankles. It's also a heart opener. Feel a softness and a warmth between your shoulder blades as you let your heart melt down to the mat. Staying with your breath here. The Yin practice lets us marinate a little bit longer in the shapes that we put our bodies in. This can definitely allow the mind to wander a little bit, and that's okay. It's just about noticing what you notice without judgment, coming back to the present moment, knowing that it's perfectly natural for our thoughts to drift. And just knowing that the breath is always there to anchor you. The practice of coming back again and again. At any time, if you feel any type of tingling or pain or any type of electric feelings within the body, please come out of the pose. It's just a sign that you might be a little too deep. We are definitely looking for sensation, but nothing dramatic or painful. When you find that spot that feels good, use the breath. Gently pressing into the hands to come out of child's pose. Might feel nice to move your body, maybe a cat-cow or two. Lifting the head up. Exhaling as you round the spine. Moving the hips. From here, we're going to make our way down to the belly for Sphinx pose. Bringing our elbows underneath of the shoulders. And know at any time if this is a bit too much sensation for your low back or anywhere, you can take your hands further away from you to lessen that sensation in the back. Finding your place, your sweet spot. You can release and collapse into the shoulders here. If it's all right with your neck, you can let it hang loose. If you feel like that might be too much for your neck here, you can find a block or blanket to place your head upon. You could also tilt your head back if that feels better, and you can support your head and neck without using any major muscle groups. I like to check in with the hands here and make sure I'm not gripping. So just bring your awareness to the body. If you're clenching your feet or your glutes, maybe just ask yourself and check in why that might be happening. Maybe the depth of the pose is one notch too many. Always feel free to dial it back a bit. We want to keep our breath nice and soft and deep and slow. So if you find that it's jagged or you're unable to keep it in that even tempo, it's a sign that you might be a little too deep. You could also prop underneath the forearms here if you're looking for more sensation. And if it's within your practice for the last minute here, you're welcome to come into seal pose, turning the hands away from you, pointing out to the corners of the mat, locking the arms as you straighten the elbows. If you'd like to open the throat and stimulate the thyroid, You can tilt your head back. Sometimes it finds a sweet spot there to nestle on the top of the neck. Again, here you can move your hands away or more towards your body, stimulating our kidneys, adrenal glands through some compression in the low back here. Here for a few more breaths. Slowly, very slowly, we'll start to inch our hands away from us and come into crocodile pose for a bit of a release. Feet come a bit wider, toes point out away from you. Cross your arms in front of your head and bring your forehead to your hands. You can shift your hips back and forth slightly here. Also use your breath and breathe into the back body. Every inhale, your abdomen presses against the floor, sending your breath to the back, finding some space after that compression. You might like to bend your knees and move through a few windshield wiper motions with the legs to release the low back. Checking in with yourself. From here, we're going to come into shoulder pigeon. So, taking your left arm out into a T shape or cactus arm. We're taking the right arm to the floor, pressing into that palm and rolling over so the left ear, left hip, left ankle are on the mat. Our right leg may come around and support on the other side. And our left arm may find a different angle. You could also bend the knees and stack the hips and knees that way. What we're trying to do is find a place where we're not using our muscles to hold us up. So if it feels natural to stack your shoulders and hips with the bottom leg stretched out, that might work for you. Top arm could come around your back. Your left ear is on the mat. And you can also put a pillow or something underneath your head here for support. You choose your depth in every pose, so please honor whatever feelings you're feeling. And there's no right or wrong way to feel the stretch. Opening up the chest here as well. Really trying to let gravity do the work in our yin practice. Releasing those large muscles from having to do any work. And when the muscles become quiet, it allows for the breath to slow down. Allows for a deeper stretch into those connective tissues, which can help us find flexibility, create healthy joints. to bring that top arm back over if you've had it behind your back, coming back onto the belly, bringing both hands underneath the head and finding that crocodile once more before we move into the other side. When you're ready, extending the right arm into a T or cactus and using the left arm to press into the floor as you roll over to the right side of the ear, the right shoulder, the right hip, and the right ankle. Remembering that we are not symmetrical all the time in our bodies, so if you feel one way on one side, you may not feel that identical way on the other side, and that's totally okay. Sending yourself some loving kindness if you do have any sticky places, and always finding what feels best in your body. Again, you could have your knees bent here with the hips and knees stacked. You could even have a pillow between your knees if that feels okay. The Yin practice also helps us move energy around the body. It allows energy to move more freely, kind of clearing out some energetic blocks. If at any time you feel like an exhale out your mouth might help you in clearing some energy during the practice, please feel free to play with the breath. Sometimes when our mind starts to wander, it can be nice to come into a breath where perhaps you're counting in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4. You may even be able to extend that count. It's a good way to come back into the body, bring the awareness back into the breath. Making our way back onto the belly, gently and slowly. You may want to release with the hip movement side to side, and then pressing back and in any type of counter pose. Hands and knees feels great, or maybe a little child's pose. Taking your time, we're going to press up into downward dog, so pressing into those hands, finding a little downward dog here, not for very long. We're going to step the feet towards the hands, coming into dangling, otherwise known in our Yang practice as Uttanasana or forward fold. Feel free to bend the knees any amount here. Find your distance between your feet, whatever feels best in your hips. Tuck the belly in and spill over the legs. You're welcome to let the hands dangle down to the mat or reach for opposite elbows here to add some traction into the spine. Head and neck are soft, flowing and cascading down towards the mat. This is one of those poses in Yin where if you feel like it's in your practice to stack the joints, the hips over the knees or over the ankles, you're welcome to start straightening the legs and locking those joints. Or keeping the knees bent. Just trying to take that pressure off of the muscles having to do the work. Gently release here. We'll extend into halfway lift and exhale. Find an inhale, hands to shins, halfway lift, and exhale, release. One more just like that. Inhale, lengthening the spine, and exhale, fold. Walking the hands back down to the mat as we step back to downward dog. Maybe pedaling those feet out a little bit. Moving into swan pose, lifting that right leg up behind us, bringing it through. You could also make your way into swan, which is also known as pigeon, by coming into hands and knees first. So however you'd like to come into your version of swan pose. Begin to extend forward. You can prop the forehead onto your stacked fists or perhaps a block or blanket. You could fold over a pillow here underneath the chest. If pigeon or swan do not work for your body, that's totally okay. You can come onto your back and to thread the needle and make it as passive as possible. So perhaps instead of pulling your leg in towards you, you leave one foot on the ground and one foot crossed over the knee. Just feel into that stretch. If you're in swan, finding softness here. This is an area, or a pose, that sometimes cultivates a bit of tension. So see if you can find release or softness through your body. You may notice after a few minutes in yin poses that your body can release or fold more deeply into the pose. Feel free to make that adjustment. Breathing here. Turning the palms face up can promote the release of the shoulders. Release the gripping. We're targeting the outer hips and psoas muscle here. There's also lots of emotional energy stored in the hips, so giving yourself some love. Allow yourself to just be where your body is in this moment without trying to change or judge. through the mouth. When you're ready, we'll start to gently use our arms to press into the palms, into the mat, coming out slowly and deliberately. If you find release in downward dog, please feel free to go there. It might feel nice to come to hands and knees for some cat-cow. Taking your time in this counter pose, allowing our blood flow to return to different areas of the body where we've had under pressure or constricting. We'll start to lift the left leg up or move onto the left side, however you feel like would work best for you, maybe from hands and knees. Bringing that left knee towards the left wrist, choosing your space that you want to take up. Maybe that front shin is more in towards your body. Maybe the knee is out towards the side. You really do get to choose the depth of the pose. Finding your breath as you let gravity do the work here. Creating more space in the body, physically, mentally, energetically, and fully surrendering. That's really what the Yin practice is all about. Staying in the experience. Can you breathe here? Can you stay here? Always know that you can find a modification when needed. Simply allowing the body to release here. And we wait for the body to open up. It's more of a passive allowing than it is an active doing, which we might see in a typical flow or warmer practice. It's all about balance. Yin and yang. Everything has both. For instance, the shadow can't exist without light. If you do find any layers of emotion surfacing, it's a beautiful time to come back to the breath. Allow for silence. Slowly we'll start to make our way up, can keep the eyes closed through the practice, allowing you to stay inward, finding your release if you'd like to press up to downward dog or hands and knees, or maybe a little child's pose. From here, we'll make our way into caterpillar pose, coming around onto our seat, maybe sitting up on a blanket so that we can release the hips and fold forward. Legs are out in front of us. If you find that you'd like a little support underneath the knees, you can also roll a blanket and put it underneath your knees for support. Otherwise, some pillows on your legs may be really nice to fold over. And again, we're not reaching or clenching or pulling in this variation. We're allowing. So letting the back round, finding a natural place where our body can fold into, and then seeing what happens. It may be a space where you can enter into and fold further as we stay in the pose for a little longer. Always take time to get yourself set up. Sometimes our original posture or modification may not work, so take your time to get into a place where you can come into your breath, come into stillness, and stay. Breathing here. In this forward fold, as with any forward fold, we're calming the nervous system. Breathing deeply, relaxing as much as we can. Soften the feet, the hands. Gently, we may be invited to move deeper over time, to have a few more breaths here. If you need to move into any other shape, feel free to do that. Gently using your hands to press into the mat as you lift the torso. Using your hands behind your knees to bring the soles of the feet to the mat. It might feel really nice to take the knees from side to side as you have your hands behind you for support. From here, we're going to make our way down onto our backs. So If you have any layers you'd like to add, maybe some woolly socks or a sweater, now would be a great time for that. Have some props nearby. When you're ready to make your way down onto the back, get there slowly. Soles of the feet come down to the mat, and then draw the knees into the chest. Give yourself a little hug here. Rolling back and forth on the sacrum. And we'll come into a twist. If there's a twist that works for you that you prefer, please feel free to go into that version. This one, moving with knees together. You can send your arms out wide or close into the body. You could put a pillow between the knees. Your gaze could go in the opposite direction as the legs. And we're just using this as a counter pose, so we're not staying here for too long, but take the time to relax into it. On your inhales, finding space, and on the exhales, feeling the body twist, but without effort. Massaging our internal organs here, neutralizing the spine. We'll start to shift to the other side, so we'll take out any supports and gently make our way onto the back, knees together. And when you're ready, coming into the other side of your twist. If you feel like your shoulder or head need a support here, if they're dangling or not making contact with the mat and it might feel better that way, then please use a blanket or a pillow. Making our way towards the end of practice here. We've relaxed our muscles as much as possible to get into our connective tissues. Working with that passive or slow yin-like energy. Be a nice balance for the yang of our lives, of that active, constant doing. Taking another big breath here. Gently start to make our way back to center. now is a great time to locate your blanket or anything you might need for Shavasana. Being nice and gentle, keeping the eyes nice and soft or closed, staying in the experience, although we are making a few adjustments here. Perhaps a pillow or bolster under the knees. Anything that can help you find comfort and release. Breathing in deeply. Exhale fully through the mouth. Letting our body integrate all of the movement and release we have found today. Taking a hand onto the heart and one to the abdomen, just like in the beginning of class. Feeling the breath down deep into the belly. Sending ourselves some love into the heart. Finding our balance of the Yin practice, slowing down, looking inward, releasing the hands if that feels good for you. We'll slowly start to breathe into the toes and the feet. Every breath working its way up the body, calves, shins, the knees, quads, hamstrings and glutes, hip flexors, the abdomen and low back, mid-back, shoulders, up through the chest, down the arms to every finger on the hand, moving up through the neck, over the back of the head, up over the lips, nose, eyes, soften the eyebrows and the space between. Finding softness from the crown of the head all the way down to the tips of the toes. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today. The light in me bows to the light in each of you. Namaste.